Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your Scotland Rugby News latest video on Monday, the 25th of March, after quite a lively weekend of fixtures involving Glasgow and Edinburgh. To get our teeth stuck into that, I'm joined first of all by Gavin Harper. How are we doing, Gav?
Yeah, not too bad, Derek. Thanks. A busy weekend of URC rugby, but apart from that, all good.
Yep, and fresh from visiting Scotstoun over the weekend, Mark McDougall joins us. How are we doing, Mark?
Yeah, not bad, Derek. Well, it's an exciting weekend, so it was a lot of fun. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, not bad for a Monday, as they say. Before we get stuck right into it, Gavin, what can people find on the website today? Of course, we've still got that brilliant offer on just now, £1 for 6 months. So many people signing up to it. So thank you to each and every one of you. Head over to scotlandrugbynews.com/subscribe if you haven't already done so. But what can people find on there?
Yeah, we've got a couple of really brilliant pieces from our new columnist, Rob Robertson, who's written about the kind of need for a bit of planning from Scottish rugby and those in the power at Murrayfield around coaches and where coaches go, because now obviously Super Series has been scrapped. So I think Rob poses the question, what basically happens to all these young up and coming Scottish coaches? And that's a really interesting read, and also a piece about the redevelopment of Murrayfield. I think everybody who's been in the last few years would probably agree that Murrayfield's in need of a bit of sprucing up. So Rob's given his thoughts on that, and then a couple of news pieces. Josh Bayliss has signed a new contract with Bath, who I'm sure we'll touch on a wee bit here, and the Scotland women obviously won at the weekend, and they are now up to their all-time highest world ranking of 6th after beating Wales. So yeah, there's loads more, and loads more to come as we get further into the week and further towards more URC games this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll kick off with Glasgow. Mark, you were there for us. Pretty treacherous conditions, a bit of a scare from Cardiff, but Glasgow rallying and winning that one, 17 points to 13. What was your big takeaways from the game?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty much. The weather kind of had a huge impact on the game, I think, in the first half especially. Kind of Cardiff used it a lot better. They kind of used it to their advantage. They're a very physical side. Glasgow didn't really deal with it at the start. I think Franco Smith kind of admitted it after the game on Friday that his players were bullied quite a bit in that first half. But there's a lot of young players in that team, so the likes of Max Williamson, Alex Samuel, they get guys that have learned a lot from that first half, and they were much better in the second half as well. When sort of they came out in the second half, they'd got a bit of a rollicking from Franco. He wasn't too happy, although by the sounds of it, there's not really much of a change in his demeanour when he's angry. Just I think we kind of asked about it after, and it was kind of there's a few more swear words in there when he's a bit angry. So I think that was really the main difference. But they came out in the second half and they started really well. In the second half, they got a try pretty quickly through Max Williamson, and then a second one through Sordoni, and it kind of from there was never any chance of them losing the game. I think they kind of controlled it in the second half. They played a lot better rugby. But yeah, it was one of those ones that you kind of just, I don't think going into it, everybody would expect it to be as difficult. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting it to be another bonus point win for Glasgow. They'd go top of the table for a day. But yeah, when you come out of the game after it, when you see the weather conditions, when you see the fact they were down 13-0 at half time, it was a pretty good one in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that Johnny Matthews has seen his interview with BBC. He said they were given a rocket at half-time just to come out, and they certainly got that reaction, certainly. But it was, as you said, Mark, it was a sort of youthful-looking side as well, wasn't it? There was a number of plus points to come out of it. Yeah,
definitely. I think, it's kind of been a big talking point of Scottish rugby over the last couple of years, really, about the players coming through. Like I think we spoke about before on here, the under-20s never seem to be able to win a game at Six Nations level, but there's a lot of players who seem to be coming through and they don't look out of place when they're playing for Glasgow. Like I think probably Max Williams is probably the biggest of those over the last few weeks. I think we spoke to him last week as well, and he kind of said about how difficult it was to come out of the under-20s and into the professional environment. But a wee loan spell away at Doncaster last year, and he's come back and he's been really good when he's played this year. And then over the last kind of because of the Six Nations that with players away. I think that's the 4th game in a row he started. It's the first time he's done that, and yeah, he's been brilliant in all the games when he has. I think Franco was a wee bit harsh on him on Friday as well. After the game, we kind of mentioned to him that he was doing well, and the first thing that Franco said was that he made a mistake in the first half and he can't keep doing that. So that kind of sums up where he is with them. But he's willing to give these young guys a chance, and they don't look out of place at all. They're right through the team. Like Jamie Dobie as well, he just struggled a wee bit in the first half, but I thought he was a lot better in the second half, especially when he kind of moved out to the wing a wee bit in the second half. It was a much better performance, and yeah, like I say, it's a good learning experience for these guys that they've went down 13 at half time. It would be easy to crumble when you're at a young age, and they came out. They did well.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you catch much of the Glasgow game, Gav?
I actually sat in and watched it all. I was delighted not to be at Scotstoun and in the warmth of the house. But yeah, no, I would echo what Mark says there. I think the two young second rows have been good. Glasgow's 2 young hookers, Angus Fraser and Gregor Hiddleston, have both been, again, not looked out of place in the kind of pro environment when they've played this season. Ben Afshar's come in. Jamie Dobie's, although he's a wee bit older, he's been good all season. I think Ewan Ferry in the back row, there are really real positives to take, and I think the fact that Franco Smith in the early part of the season was aware that he would be without 15 internationals during the Six Nations has really helped Glasgow, because these guys have been in the team, it feels like, all season. So I feel like they've when the time has come for them to kind of stand up and be counted, they've been able to do that because they've built into that experience from a few weeks before.
Yeah,
absolutely. Of course, the next up, Scarlets, they play Mark. Do you see that being a bit of a test for them this coming weekend?
When you go away, it's always a test, but I don't think it should be. Like they should again go down there when they've got some more Scotland players back this week. Some of the guys that got a week off after the Six Nations last week will be back. There will obviously be a few more, get a few days off this week, sort of, to get them all fit and ready. I think kind of look towards the Harlequins game next week. They want them all back and ready for that. So, it'll be a few back in. It'll be interesting to see what team Franco does go with again. But yeah, I mean, it's always going to be tough. But I think they should do all right down there.
Yeah, struggling down there in 13th position at this moment in time. But yeah, you'd imagine that Glasgow will have enough to go down and get the job done. Edinburgh then, on the other hand, Gav, you watched them on Saturday, wasn't it? They were taken to the field against Stormers, losing by 43 points to 21. 7-try bonus point for the South African side. Not a pleasant day at the office, should we say?
No, that was a harder watch than the Glasgow game, which the first half of which Mark hasn't sold particularly well. Edinburgh. It's Edinburgh funny because on paper they've got such a good team and they should compete in all these games. And yet Sean Everett's taken 7 Scotland internationals to South Africa, and I think only Sam Skinner and Ben Healy played, but I just had a feeling from the start of the week that they almost felt like they were never they were going there to see what they could pick up. Stormers have been great at home. They're a really good team to watch. That helped. Although it was Edinburgh on the receiving end, the entertainment value from the Stormers is first class. But Edinburgh just never got out the blocks at all. They kind of hung in there. Bill Mattis scored a try just before half time. They scored again right after Stormers had scored, but they were just always chasing it, and it just got away from them. And I worry about Edinburgh because Richard Cockrell, for all that people have criticised him since he left, instilled this real fight and the kind of a bit of an edge to the Edinburgh squad. They seem to have gone away from that a little bit, and yeah, I would have liked to seen them just come up with more to stop Stormers, but they didn't. And I mean, it's a hard place to go. But when Ben Velicott admitted after the game they made it too easy, and when you do that, you're on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the leapfrog Edinburgh in the table. It's the first defeat in a wee while, though, Gav, isn't it? That Edinburgh have suffered. Just put it down to a blip. Do you see them bouncing straight back, or do we look deeper into this defeat? Is that something that could sort of manifest itself?
Yeah, you'd hope not. I think what will help them this week is they're now in Durban. They play the Sharks on Saturday, and they'll have a few of their Scotland guys back. So, likes of, I imagine, Duhan van der Merwe will come back in.
Yeah.
Ewan Ashman didn't play at the weekend. Grant Gilchrist might play. So that experience will help them. Because again, like Glasgow, they did have a few kind of youngsters. Probably it is just a blip, but I would be worried if I saw that pattern of them falling out of a game so badly again, because they just they almost never got out the starting blocks on Saturday, which was the real disappointment. But yeah, I think they want to come back from South Africa with some points, so really it makes the game on Saturday almost a must win.
Yeah, Gav, Sharks like Scarlet struggling at the bottom end of the table. You've got to fancy Edinburgh to put that defeat behind them at the weekend, you know?
I would like to think so. And the optimist in me says yes, with the quality they'll have coming back into the team. It's that challenge, the challenge of playing in South Africa. It's so great that might be the stumbling block. People will say there's a few South Africans in that Edinburgh team that will be more than used to playing in Durban. So, yeah, look, it'll just depend on what availability I think they've got and how they can kind of bounce back from Saturday's defeat. But yeah, I think on balance, probably I would pick them to just about edge it.
Do you agree, Mark?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, when the Scotland boys come back, but there's a lot of experience in that sort of Edinburgh team already. When you look at the team they had out at the weekend, right through the team, there's a lot of experience. I feel like they should have probably done a bit better, but like Gav says, though, even from the way it was spoken about earlier in the week, it almost felt like we'll just take what we can get out of it. They never really felt like they believed that they were going to get anything, which I thought was interesting. I think when you heard the like coaches and players speaking, it was almost like it's difficult to go to South Africa as a travelling team. It's difficult to get used to the weather. It's difficult to get used to this and that. It almost just felt like they weren't really feeling that they were going to do anything, and I think it kind of showed in the game as well, where it never really looked like it either by the sounds of it.
Yep, disappointing day for Edinburgh, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, as we touched on, a great comeback win for Glasgow over the weekend. Elsewhere, you touched on at the top of the show, Gav, talking about Bath. Finn Russell impressed, of course, in their victory. Fantastic in the Premiership, of course, winning their match. Finn Russell, certainly the standout performer there. Did you catch much of that game?
Yeah, again, it was a bit of a rugby weekend for me, which is probably not going down well with my wife. But no, yeah, I did manage to see it. I thought Finn was exceptional. He kicked 17 points. He kicked a drop goal, a career first. Obviously fancied that matchup against George Ford and thought, well, do you know what? Anything you can do in the World Cup, I can do one better. Kicked it off his left foot, which, yeah, I mean, fair play. And set up a couple of tries. Yeah, I thought he looked in really good form, and I thought, again, that partnership with Cam Redpath at 10-12 for Bath, it just suits them. Like, they just play a style that suits both of their games. We talked about in previous weeks about Scotland maybe needing it to be a wee bit more direct, and Stafford McDowell and Sione Tuipulotu kind of playing at 12, but the way that Redpath and Russell kind of combine for Bath is brilliant. And they were in pretty good form. There's a couple of Scottish qualified guys in the Sale team, Gus Waugh at scrum half, who did pretty well. I'd be pretty interested to see him if Scotland could get a hold of him for the summer tour and give guys like Ben White, Ali Price a rest. And Aaron Reid, who was in the Six Nations squad, was on the wing. He had a bit of a tougher day against Joe Thockenasinger. who scored 2 tries. So, yeah, and then Tom Roebuck, who was in the England squad but didn't play, so he's still eligible for Scotland. So, yeah, maybe he might be another one that the Gregor Townsend's trying to get a hold of for the summer tour. So we'll wait and see about that. But, yeah, no, Finn was brilliant, as Finn very often is.
Yeah, absolutely. A good weekend for Bath, incidentally. Of course, Northampton losing out, so they go to within 2 points of Northampton at the top of the Premiership after that win over Sale Sharks. And just staying with Bath as well, of course, you touched on it earlier, Gav. Josh Bayliss signed a new 3-year deal. News emerging today, so that's a good deal for him. Good to see him getting his future tied down.
Yeah, it's great for
there,
him.
Gav? Can you hear me? Hey.
I can hear you.
There we go.
Yeah,
Carry on.
Great for him. Not so good for Scottish rugby. I'd have liked to seen him up here playing for one of the professional teams. Here, I think he'd be a really good fit at Glasgow. Although they've got a stack of good back row, I think he would be somebody who benefited from maybe playing in the URC and having minutes managed and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, he's obviously been at Bath for a long time. And again, it's somebody who really suits their style. So I think that was, once their offer came in, they'll financially probably be able to offer more than the Scottish clubs. So it probably makes sense for him, makes sense for Bath. And hopefully now he can kind of kick on. He's in a bit of a frustrating time since he made his Scotland debut a couple of years ago. So he'd be another one for that summer tour that hopefully can put his hand up and get a run of games and see where it takes him.
Yeah, just looking ahead to that summer tour, Mark. We discussed it a bit on last time we were on. Was it Friday? I've lost track of days. But what are you expecting out of that? Do you expect a number of players to perhaps get first call-ups, a bit of experimentation, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'd be surprised if I seen the likes of Finn Russell's tour in America and Canada, Chile and Uruguay. I don't see how if he would get much out of it other than kind of another chance to captain the team, add a few more caps to his CV. Otherwise, I think you'll see a lot of maybe the younger guys getting a chance. The likes of, like we mentioned earlier, likes of Max Williamson and that were in training with Scotland, Ali Miller, players like that. They might get an opportunity to kind of show what they could do. I'd expect maybe somebody like Rory Darge to go and captain the team and kind of get more experience. Like it's almost different to Finn in that way. Whereas he's got the co-captaincy just now, but I think we mentioned it before. He was kind of that felt like it was a succession planning kind of thing. I think this would be good for him to go and sort of learn it on his own. I probably would expect to see quite a number of new faces in the team just to see how they do at that level, and see how they get on. So it's going to be interesting to see who he picks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be interesting for Scottish rugby.
Bit left field going over there, Gav, isn't it? But it presents, as Mark says, opportunities for maybe those on the fringes, your young guys coming through to really stake a claim and be on that plane.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's the right time to do it. I think if realistically, there are probably 6 or 7 guys in the mix for next summer's Lions tour, and you probably want to give them the summer off. So it's a good chance to build that depth. It's far enough out for the next World Cup that you get an idea of where players are at. Can they play international rugby? And then guys that impress in that have got a couple of games in the autumn, particularly that one against Portugal, that they could be saying, well, there's another opportunity. So it's not like if you're a young guy, you're going to come in, you're going to play the summer tour, and then you'll be discarded for a couple of years, even if you play well. I think there'll be opportunities for these guys in the next 6-12 months that they can kind of come in and make themselves more a fixture of the team. So yeah, I think it is a bit left field, and yeah, people have raised eyebrows about. One of Rob Robertson's columns last week was, what will Scotland gain from going to particularly Chile and South America, Chile and Uruguay. But I think they'll gain that, extending the depth, particularly in some positions where that's lacking. So I can understand why they're not away to South Africa or New Zealand. And I think, as I say, it's probably the right time to do it.
Yeah. Back to the URC just before we wrap up, Mark. Leinster, of course, winning again. They lead the table at this moment in time. They're the team to beat. Can you see anyone toppling them?
It's an awkward one, but Leinster are always good. Like every year, they're always up there, so they're always the team that people kind of look towards because they're a side that are just difficult to beat no matter how they are. Like home or away, it doesn't really matter. Leinster are always going to be a tough one. So yeah, they are a tough one to beat. But Glasgow are playing brilliantly.
Yeah.
If they get home playoff, then you never know. But it's going to be a tough one no matter where you play Leinster. So I mean, I wouldn't say that Glasgow couldn't do it or they wouldn't do it, but it's like I say, it's just always a tough one, and it would be an interesting battle to see how it goes on.
Yeah,
they've just got so many players.
Yeah, what was that, Gav?
And so Leinster, I think they've just got so many players.
Yeah.
I watched their game at the weekend. Another rugby game I've not missed. And, look, I was interested because I hadn't really, looked at the team or anything beforehand, and it just their strength and depth is just frightening. And I think that's where they've got the edge on basically everybody else, is that they've got 20 Ireland internationals, but when they're all away, the guys underneath are equally as good. And that maybe speaks to the Irish player development that they've got so right that Scottish rugby has got so wrong in the last maybe 5 years, 10 years. So yeah, it's a problem. But as Mark says, on their day, Glasgow can put up a good fight. And that would be an interesting game, particularly at Scotstoun. But for me, it's hard to look past Leinster.
I think just that point there on the players that also can't give too much away because it came from the press conference and stuff. But there was kind of like that chat about the young players coming through at Glasgow and how Franco's kind of used the squad all season, and it's kind of looking a bit like that Leinster team where players come in and they don't look out of place even if they're replacing somebody who's played 100 times. So I think Glasgow are starting to build that as well. They're getting these young guys in, and as mentioned, I've said it I think 100 times on these podcasts already. Like they just don't look out of place ever, and it is a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be rude of us not to mention Scotland women's result over the weekend, lads. Brilliant down there in beating Wales in their own patch for the first time in 20 years, I think it was, which is a fantastic result. 20 points to 18. They defeated the Welsh. Great weekend for the women, Gav.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and do you know there's been such a growth in that team over the last probably 2 years, but particularly in the last 12 months, they've really they've developed. Their game management has improved drastically. They now know their style and they know exactly how they want to play. They've got some really exciting individuals. I thought again Emma Orr was brilliant at the weekend. Evie Gallagher's now a fixture of the team. Rachel Malcolm is just such a good captain. I mean, they actually probably should have won that more comfortably. If there's a criticism, it would be that they should have been out of sight and it shouldn't have come down to a couple of Welsh mistakes at the end of the missed kick and Wales kicked the ball out with time up. So I think that's definitely something they'll want to improve on, that, they should have been well clear, but it's a great achievement to have gone down there, won for the first time in 20 years, and now they've got the small challenge of the third best team in the world, France, at the Hive on Saturday. So, we'll see how they go there, but there is a real opportunity for them to become that best of the rest behind France and England in the Women's Six Nations, which 5 years ago was miles away. So they've really progressed, which was great to see.
Yeah, it's a great start, Mark, isn't it? Do you think that's right from Gav? I think there's an expectation there to finish best of the rest this year. Yeah,
I mean, I think they've got to be aiming for it. I think you see the celebrations at the end of the game on Saturday. You could see how much it meant to the players. And like Gav said, they've improved so much over the last couple of years. I think the Celtic Challenge has kind of helped that as well, with the players kind of playing a bit more competitive rugby at a higher level, and now taking it into. There's also a lot of players that went from Edinburgh in particular who done so well in that. So yeah, I think they've got to be looking for that. It's got to be an aim to try and be best of the rest and just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Great result from the Scotland women team at the weekend. And as Gav says, they play France this coming Saturday, a 2:15 p.m. kickoff in that one. Right, lads, I think that will do us there. Huge thanks to Gavin and also to Mark for joining us on your latest Scotland Rugby News video. I'd imagine we'll be back maybe later on in the week, Gav.
Yeah, we'd hope so. I think we'll have all the Edinburgh and Glasgow team news ahead of their games, so we'll look to be back on later in the week.
Super stuff. And as I mentioned earlier on, plenty on the website to keep you entertained. Head over to www.scotlandrugbynews.com. If you haven't subscribed, then please do. £1 for 6 whole months worth of coverage. We're practically giving it away. Right, folks, that'll do us there. We'll speak to you later on. Bye for now.